Welcome back to the Unity Obstacle Course tutorial. In this tutorial, I am going to be showing you how to create a patroller object and make it patrol along spawn points. So basically, what is a patroller? A patroller is a game object that we set up with a series of points to travel along. They move from one point to the next, starting at the first point and going down a list. We have many different ways that we could create this patroller object. So there's one, which is the obvious way, which is just declaring a control point at each patrol point inside of the script and then dragging and drop that game object to the transformation reference inside of the patroller script. But we're not chumps, so we're not going to be doing that. We're going to be using an array to programmatically grab these patrol points and use them within our patroller script. So the process goes like this. We're going to create an empty game object. So just right here, we're going to create empty. And we are going to name it Patroller. We're going to, in a little bit, we're going to position it a little bit to the right of our player game object. But right now, we're going to go in and we are going to create a cube as a child of this Patroller game object. And we're going to name it Model Base. We're going to set its local position to 0, 1.5, and 0. And then we're going to set its scale to 3, 3, 3. And so basically we kind of see that, alright, so with this patroller, we're going to set this just for the start to 0, 0, 0. And remember, so since we have this patroller as 0, 0, 0, that's the parent. And this child is 0, 1.0, and that's the local position. So it moves it 1.5 according to that patroller parent game object. So that's kind of how these positions work. And then remember that we keep the position to 1/2 the scale to position it on the floor. And since this will be a hazard, we're going to go inside of the model base and we're going to check the is trigger in the inspector. And then we're going to create a second cube as a child of this model base, and we are going to call it model top. Oh, we accidentally pressed enter, and so just to do that, we right click on it and we click rename, and that's kind of just how you rename variables inside of this. And we're going to set its local position to 0 on the X, 0.5 on the Y, and 0.5 on the Z, and we're going to set its local scale to 0.2, 0.2, 0.7. This will make it stick out the top of it and just kind of make that work. We'll also delete its box collider component so the player isn't killed by a little protruding piece. And so after this, we're going to set the layer of the patroller to hazard. So at the top, just create that hazard. Yes, change it to children. And then we're going to create a hazard script. We're going to add our hazard script to the patroller game object, and we also need to add it to the model base just in case it didn't do it automatically, which your Unity might. My Unity currently has a bug and it's not automatically doing that. And then we want to create a material for this model base, and we're just going to use a pink, and we're going to be reusing this material, so we're going to give it a very generic name. We're going to call it mobile hazard, so it's not just for our patroller, it's also for quite a few other things. And we're going to set its hex value to a pink, and that is EF7796. And so just like that, we have a pink patroller, and after this we need to create the patrol points game objects. And so we're just going to press Alt-Shift-N while we're in the root of it. We're going to name it patrol point. Make sure that you get the spelling correct because it's very crucial to how this script works. So it has to be patrol space point space, and then you use the parentheses and add the number or the integer that is going to be used. And so we just have this set at 0, 0, 0. And then if we just copy and paste this, we're going to copy, paste, and you go back to controller and you press paste as child, 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 all the way up to 5. So you're going to have 6 total patrol points. And we're going to have patrol point 1 being 3, 0, 0. Patrol point 2 is going to be 9, 0, 5. Patrol point 3 is going to be 9, 0, 10. And patrol point 4 is going to be 7, 0, -5. And patrol point 5 is going to be 14, 0, 6. So this is going to allow our patroller game object to move within the space according to some predefined coordinates. Last, we need to declare our patroller script. So we're just going to create a script, name it patroller. Don't forget there's 2 L's. And then we're going to open up this patroller script. And again, we already have our patroller created in another script. And so I'm just going to kind of go over this. So first, we need to get our variables set up. And again, it's some very basic stuff. It's very similar to our player controller object, but we're not actually allowing player movement. So it's kind of like the same thing. It's going to move around according to some patrol points. And so we basically set up our references. These are game objects within the space. We have a stat, which is just its move speed to understand how fast this game object is going to move. And then we have private variables for current point index, current point, and patrol points. And I'm going to show you how we're going to use these variables to kind of work around it. So we have our start method. And inside start, we have to get this list of, we're really just getting the list of variables that are within the space, you know? So it's grabbing these patrol points and then it's programmatically adding them to our script. And so we're pasting the whole thing. So, well, I gotta redo that again. A little bit messy on these hotkeys, folks, but we're gonna get it done. We accidentally grabbed the update. Here we go, void start. And so it's basically, so you know, it's just grabbing programmatically. It finds if we have points, if there's more control points, it grabs the patrol points and puts them into an array based on the number of patrol points that we have total. And then it creates a quick reference to the patrol point. And then we find the name of the control point, or we're really just grabbing the index of that current control point. We're converting that control point. We're setting the reference in our script patrol points array. So within it, we're setting that patrol point to equal that point, and the point is a transform. So it's grabbing an actual object and adding it to an array of transforms. And then after that, we're going to unparent it from that patroller game object because we don't want the patroller to move with the spawn point. So we have to unparent each patrol point so the patrol point does not move with the parent, if that makes any sense. And then we hide the patrol points in the hierarchies to just kind of keep it looking nice. And then after that, we have to work with our update script. And this is going to just be the actual movement of the patroller game object. So we have just kind of real quick, we find the controller, the position, if the current point is not null. If we have a current point, we're just going to use a vector3.move towards. We're going to kind of look over here on the big one. And then if trans.position, so if we're on top of the point already, we need to change the current point. So if the current point is equal to that, then if we're at the last patrol point, so if we look, so if it's equal and we're at the last control point, we need to go back to the beginning, and then else if we're not at the last patrol point, go to the next control point. And if we're not on the point yet, we want to start rotating our player model. So that's all it's going to do. We use that quaternion look.rotation and slurp, and that's how that works. And then we also have this to kind of pull it in at the beginning. This is this method that we kind of declared in our start method. That was the get unsettled patrol points. This method basically works with the game objects and pulls them into this space. So this is what actually gets all the children in it, and then this does what I was talking about before, where before in the start method it was this kind of takes a substring and it finds the index of it, and then it grabs that index, and we're able to do that because we're finding game objects that start with patrol point. And then last but not least, we have to have the set control point private method. And that's pretty simple. It's just taking the current point index, setting it to index, and the current point is, since it's past the index, and then we say current point index is equal to that, and that kind of just updates our script to kind of have that global variable, which really like a private class member, and then it sets the current point to that we go from the transform of patrol points. And so now that we have all that done, we're going to go ahead over here. We're going to take our patroller method. We added it to our patroller. We have two now. Remember we added it to our patroller and our model base. And inside of the patroller model base, it automatically kind of does, well, no, we did not actually add that yet. So we have to add the patroller to the patroller. And now we have that set. Patroller does not have any references set to it because it is drag and dropped. And then we're just going to position our patroller game object and stuff like that. So we're in the scene management right now, but we're just going to manually slide it over here, and then that kind of starts it up. And we do have some compile errors. So I had to rename convert to system.convert just because it wasn't pulling in the correct using statement. So that might be an issue. And then if you go back to your game, since that compile issue is done, the patroller script should be updated, and you should be able to add the trans, which is going to be that empty patroller object, and then the model holder is in the model base. So we're just going to drag and drop those, and when we start this, it should compile without any errors, and then you see it working. And just to let you guys know, if you're running into problems with it not starting, you're going to notice this pause button right up here, and that would be highlighted, and that means there's a setting in Unity and it has a pause on error. So if you have any errors, this is not currently updated because we just assigned that, but it didn't have time to update. But if you go to Window, General, and Console, or press Control-Shift-C, you'll be able to see the console window, and you'll know if you have any errors that are preventing your Unity game from launching and letting you kind of run and test your scripting. So now we see this updating like that, and that's it for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. See you next video.